So I am back with Alok and Kruti Kanojia, and they are the co-founders of Healthy Gamer. And we've been talking about technology, we've been talking about gaming, and today we're going to talk about focusing on staying connected. So, when just see that my internet connection was flaky. So when we're talking about technology, there's often this disconnection that happens, and we've been alluding to it in our first segment. It happens because parents see that there's something that may be not working, but they're not sure how to go in. And so I want to talk more about that relationship piece that you were just alluding to being so important. And that's where my work is too. So what can parents do to stay connected?
So I think the first thing is understand why your child is playing the video game. Try to understand what is it that attracts them to the game. So usually what we tend to see is, kid is playing game in their room, and then you call them for dinner, they don't show up. You call a second time, they don't show up. And then you go up there, parent is frustrated, and then pulls the plug because the kid is appropriately not responding. He or she's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so then it sort of creates tension. And then over time, the parent responds usually by restriction or punishment or something like that, because if the kid isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing, like as a parent, if there's a bad behavior, like you don't reinforce that behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And that all makes sense. I think it's good parenting to set, limits on your kids and to expect certain things. But very few parents stop and sort of try to understand, like, why is the child doing this? So, like,
Right.
And I think that's where, if you want to rebuild your connection, if your connection is kind of frayed, that's where you start. So you really have to sit down and try to understand, because I think the other thing that happens is that children don't have the perception that their parents understand. So then you kind of get into this phase of, like, they're just taking the game away. They don't understand what it means to me. They don't try to understand me. They don't ask questions. They're just restrictive. They're like a force for punishment.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
we think the foundation of sort of rebuilding a connection, which is a big part of kind of what we do. We're all about rebuilding what we call a therapeutic alliance with your child, right?
Yeah.
So you guys have to be on the same team. And that starts with understanding. So it starts with asking questions like, what do you play?
Right.
And what is it about that game that you like? Why aren't you playing Fortnite or Minecraft or Apex Legends or World of Warcraft? Or have you tried playing this game? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Fascinating thing is when parents start asking questions like that, the kids, first of all, get really confused. They're like, I'm surprised I didn't even know you knew what that was. And then what happens is something miraculous. They start talking.
Right.
Right. So there's this whole world that your child is becoming a part of, which you don't understand. Like, you don't know what they play. You don't know who they play it with. You don't know the ages of the people that they play it with.
Right.
So your child is engaging in this world which you kind of don't understand. And I think before, for the parents who have been the most successful at kind of building an alliance with their child have been the ones who understand what their child is like doing and why they're doing it. They begin to understand things like, oh yeah, I play World of Warcraft because there's a community and I like working with 25 other human beings to accomplish this really difficult task.
Nice.
And the people who I play with online don't actually like call me names or make fun of my acne.
Right.
Because it's hard right now. Like, social media, for the first time in history, we have an easily quantifiable way to judge your social popularity. Right? Like, when you post something, some people get 1,000 likes and you get 2. And then that tells your brain that as a human being, you are objectively less valued than someone else.
Wow.
And
That's a lot of pressure.
It is.
Yeah.
And so these kids turn to games because on games, they don't have acne, or they're not overweight, or their voice doesn't crack.
Mm-hmm.
A video game is colorblind. You don't have an ethnicity. Sometimes you don't even have a gender.
Right.
And so you get judged for who you are. And I think that when parents, sometimes part of the reason that when they take games away, it creates a lot of conflict is they don't understand that they're taking away a part of your child's identity. You're telling them to, you're taking away their friends, you're taking away the people who value them as human beings.
Wow. Yeah. It's their world.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think the basis of forming a connection is, first of all, to understand that. And once you
Mhm.
understand it, then you can share your opinion with them, right? You can say, hey, I know that this, because then you understand what you're doing. When you tell them to log off, you understand the impact that it has on them.
Right. Right. When they don't come to dinner at the exact time, and then but you understand that they're at the end of this segment and their friends are counting on them because you've had that conversation, and they can say it's about 5 minutes and I'll be there.
Yeah,
But then we can have a little bit more compassion for what's going on for them.
absolutely. And I think it fosters the way to, I think, like a really important conversation, which is, I understand that you have a responsibility to your friends online, and you have a responsibility to be at the dinner table.
That's right.
So
That's
how
right.
can we figure out your schedule in terms of, like, do you want us, like, should we start eating 15 minutes later so that you can have time with your friends? Or, is it like you should be at dinner time, and I know that your friends are important to you, but like dinner is actually more important. And the
Mhm.
crazy thing is, when parents say that, the kids are actually on board as long as the parents understand what they're asking.
Right.
It's not dinner for dinner's sake. It's, hey, I understand this relationship is important to you, but family time is important to us. We think it should be important to you as well. And is there some way that we can work together to kind of, give you what is important to you, and also adhere to some like reasonable expectations?
That's right. It's not just, all right, well, then you're gaming. All right. All right, as you were.
Absolutely.
Never mind me. I'm going to be in the kitchen by myself upset because you're
Yeah.
not here. It's then there's a conversation, but I hear what you're saying is that first there's that understanding.
Yep.
I get what I'm asking you.
Absolutely. Right.
Yes. Yes. And I really appreciate just that conversation of, all right, so tell me more about your online world. One of the things that I did an interview a couple of years ago, and with the author Larry Cohen, author of Playful Parenting. We're talking about video games and that, wow, it's time for dinner. you know okay, come on, come on, come on. And
Mhm.
one of the things he said was, come in and get right next to your child and put your hand on them. And he's like, you're competing with millions of dollars of marketing that's
Yeah.
that's happening. You're competing with that. And get down and look and join them in what they're doing. And that just made such an impact on me. It's like they're doing something that's important to them. Join them in it. See what they're doing. Ask them questions. It's the conversations that I've had with my boys about what they do online, their gaming, the things that they enjoy, and the things that they've learned about themselves by
Mm.
gaming is fascinating.
Wow.
I've learned that I'm really frustrated by, like, my oldest son who's 20. He says things like, I just when things aren't created well, that gets really, really frustrating to me. And that goes for things that are offline as well. If something isn't built well, if something isn't, I
Mm.
know this about myself now. And
Yeah.
so I don't play this game anymore because it has too many glitches and it just frustrates me. So I know that about myself. So it's been really interesting, the conversations that have opened up because of that.
Wow. The cool thing is, understanding that kind of understanding about what you like and what you don't like and what sits with you, I think helps people succeed in the real world too.
Yes, absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
we see that sometimes in terms of, so a lot of what I'll tell parents to do, and I think we may be talking about this a little bit later, is understand what draws your child to a game. And then if you want them to cut back on their gaming, you can't just take the gaming away. You have to give them something that satisfies that same thing.
Right. That same need,
Yeah.
their
Right.
needs.
And so it's like Lego and Minecraft. Like, that's the same thing.
Right.
And if you want them to unplug, then you can't just tell them, oh, why don't you go join Boy Scouts? Like, it's not,
Right.
that doesn't compute.
No.
And so as you understand, you can start to make suggestions, and your child will also appreciate that they'll understand that those suggestions are thoughtful. They're not just so-and-so
Random.
this other person's kid is doing it, so you should do it too.
Right. Basketball. The answer is
Yeah.
basketball.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Right. But something that has context, something that has understanding of why. Something that has that understanding. Yeah.
It can also be interesting when they recognize what they're really good at. So Alok was talking about how, he was kind of the young kid, right? So he wasn't ever going to be like the sports captain as a kid, but I see him gaming now, and I see him like kind of almost like in the quarterback position of like, you go here, and like kind of calling the plays. And it's really interesting to kind of see like, that's really fun to be able to play that role and be really good at it. So that's kind of one thing that we always kind of find parents really respond to well, is like asking your kid, what are you good at in this? Like, show me a way where this is something that you're doing that you're really loving and you're good at, that you can't do somewhere else. And so you'll see kids that are really good at math that are bored in school, but they're playing these games and kind of making these like micro calculations very quickly, or they're kind of like your son, really creative and maybe don't have like a great arts program at school, but they're able to make these beautiful, intricate kind of creations online. So finding what you're good at and kind of sharing that sense of pride in your kids' accomplishments can go such a long way.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Absolutely. And that then builds self-esteem and connection, and that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to have a good relationship with our kids and help them to grow and learn about themselves and be successful, whatever that means to them.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So anything else on staying connected?
I mean, I think we pretty much covered it. I think, like I mentioned, I think the most important thing about staying connected is communication and understanding. And a lot of children feel like their parents don't understand them or don't understand the game. And so any kind of feedback that you try to provide for them is going to just be devalued because you don't know what you're talking about, right? And once they understand that you do understand, then the crazy thing is that you can start to tell them, hey, I think you should play less. And they're willing to listen because you understand.
That's right. That's right. Because there's nothing more important than the relationship. And when you have that relationship and that connection, then they value what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Tomorrow we're going to be back talking about when is this a problem, and what can we do. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the All Relationships Can Heal podcast. I'm Rebecca Thompson Hitt, founder and executive director of the Consciously Parenting Project. You've been listening to my week-long series with Alok and Kruti Kanojia, co-founders of Healthy Gamer. If you have any questions about gaming, computers, technology, and your kids as you're listening to this series, please email me directly at rebecca@consciouslyparenting.com. And we'll be back tomorrow for more of our conversation about healthy gaming.